Hi everyone, welcome to lesson 32 of learning JavaScript. In the previous lesson we learned about component arrays and how we could use them to manipulate hyperlinks, images and form elements. So we're going to build on to that previous lesson and we're just going to have a little bit of fun with component arrays. So to start off with, let us do the following exercise. I want to enter some text into my box. When I click on the button, I want the text on the button to change to that text that was entered into the box. So let's go to the JavaScript. First thing we need to do is get the object that we're going to be working with, which is in this case the button. So I'll create a variable for my button and I'll say document dot forms. There's only one form on the page. Elements. There are two elements in my form. The first element is a text box. The second element is a button. It's the button that I'm interested in. So it's elements 1. Then when you click on the button, something must happen. So I need to add an on-click event to the button. I'm going to just call an anonymous function. So just for fun, I'll just put an alert message just to see if it's working. So when I click the button, it should pop up an alert box. There we go. So I know now that the function is being called when the button is being clicked on. The next step is I need to get the text value that was entered into the form. So whatever this value is over here, that value I need to get and put that into a variable. So to do that, I will say box val, that's the value of the box. That will be equal to document dot forms 0. There's only one form on the page. Dot elements. Which element am I interested in? I want the value of the first element, so that's element 0. Dot value. So now the box val variable, let's just do an alert on it just to make sure that it's correct. That should contain the text that was entered into the box. Email. Okay, let's try it with something different. I'll put in Joe. Yeah, so it is correctly retrieving the value from the box. But instead of alerting it, I want to now change the value of the button. So I've already created a variable for the button. So all I need to do is say button.value is equal to box value. Or instead of button, I could have said this.value, because remember this in JavaScript refers to the current object. And because the on-click event was attached to the button, that would be the current object. But this will do just fine. Okay, so now let me enter Mary and click the button. The text on the button changes now to Mary. Okay, so let's say I wanted to change the text of the second link to whatever I type into the box, in addition to changing the text on the button. So all I would need to do here is then say document.links. Remember the links array? Link 0 would be the first link on the page. I want to change the second link on the page. And then what do I want to change with regard to the second link on the page? Here's the second link of the page. Do I want to change the href? No. The title? No. I want to change the inner HTML property to be the same as what was typed into the box. So we'll say .inner HTML is equal to box value. So we're going to change both now. We're going to type some text in here. And when you click the button, you'll notice that the text changed on the button and it changed on the hyperlink. So now we're really starting to have some fun. Let's do something a little bit different. Now I want us to click on the very first image. And every time I click on this image, I want it to increase in size by 10 pixels. So let me scrap all of this code for now. First thing I need to do is get my object that I'm working with, which is pick1. I'll say document dot images 0. 0 refers to the first image. Then I need to attach an on click to that picture. And what must I do when I click the picture? I must call a function. And I must increase the size of the picture. So I'd say pick1.width. By increasing the width, the height will automatically increase. Plus equals, in other words, add to the existing value of the width. And I'm going to increase by 10 pixels. But you can increase by as many pixels as you want. So every time I click on the sailing boat, it increases in size. That's pretty powerful. Okay, something a little different. If I click on the first image, I want the images to swap around. Okay, so I've already created a variable for my first image. Now we once again going to do the onClick and call a function. And I could say, for example, change the SRC of pick1 to the SRC of pick2. So I guess I should probably make another variable for pick2. You don't have to make a variable, you could just use document.images. So pick2.src. Let's see what that does. So I'm saying the source of pick1, that's the source property of pick1, must be set to the source of pick2. Okay, so let's click. Okay, so now they're both the same. So I'm halfway there. I now need to do the other picture to be what this picture used to be. Problem with that is I don't know what this picture used to be because I've just lost it. So I'm going to need a temporary variable to keep track of what I'm doing. So first step would be to create a temporary variable and set that temporary variable to the value of the source of pick1. Then I'm going to set the source of pick1 to the source of pick2. And then I'm going to set the source of pick2 to the temporary variable. And that way they should do a complete swap. Okay, so every time I click on the first image, they swap around. It's pretty cool. And so you can see you can do just about anything you want, knowing how to work with a component arrays. You should know how to set the values of those arrays. And then you'll be able to manipulate the properties of links, images, and form elements using component arrays. And that ends this lesson.